Hi everyone. Today I want to share a personal story about how learning phrasal verbs completely transformed the way I speak English and connect with others. If you're someone who's ever felt stuck saying the same things over and over, I think you'll relate to this. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let me tell you about my little journey to sounding more natural in English. To start with, when I first began learning English, I stuck to the basics. I'd say things like, I will do this, or, I will meet you later. And don't get me wrong, that's perfectly fine. But as I listened to native speakers, I noticed they didn't talk like that all the time. Instead, they used casual, cool phrases that made them sound so natural, like they weren't even trying. That's when it hit me, I needed to learn phrasal verbs. It all started when I was texting a friend about making plans for the weekend and wrote, "Can we meet tomorrow?" It seemed simple enough, but her response caught me off guard. She replied, "Sure, let's hang out around 5. Hang out? I stared at my phone, slightly confused. I understood the meaning, but it wasn't something I had ever used before. It sounded so casual and normal, exactly how I wanted my English to sound. That's when I realized my English was missing something. I needed those everyday phrases that make conversations flow naturally. So, I decided to make a change. I started practicing phrasal verbs, and texting became my go-to method. It felt safe and low pressure because I could take my time crafting the perfect message. One of the first things I did was set a personal rule: no more textbook English in my text. For example, instead of typing, "Can we meet tomorrow?" I started saying, "Wanna meet up tomorrow?" And guess what? My friend replied instantly, "Sure, let's figure out a time." That small change made me feel like I was getting the hang of it. When I wanted to reconnect with someone, I started using catch up. I'd message, "Hey, we haven't talked in ages. Let's catch up soon." It always got a positive response. People seemed more excited to meet, and my texts felt warmer and friendlier. For group plans, I began using phrases like, "Let's team up and figure out the details." It made planning feel more collaborative. And when a conversation or task was coming to an end, I'd say, "All right, let's wrap up this discussion and meet tomorrow." It sounded so much more natural than, "Let's finish this." Now, let me share some of my favorite phrasal verbs that you can use when making plans with friends, colleagues, or anyone in casual settings. These phrases aren't just useful, they'll make your conversations feel more relaxed and engaging. First up is drop by. This phrase is perfect when you want to suggest a brief or informal visit. Instead of saying, "Come to my place later," you can say, "Why don't you drop by my place later?" It feels casual and easygoing, making it ideal for spontaneous plans. Next is run into, which is great for talking about unexpected meetings. Instead of saying, "I met Sarah unexpectedly yesterday," you can say, "I ran into Sarah yesterday, and we decided to grab coffee this weekend." It's casual and works perfectly to describe those surprise encounters that lead to spontaneous plans. Pop over is another excellent phrase for casual visits. Instead of saying, "I'll visit you before dinner," you can say, "I'll pop over for a quick chat before dinner." It's friendly, informal, and perfect for those quick, impromptu plans. Then we have sort out, which is incredibly handy for organizing or clarifying details. For instance, instead of saying, "Let's finalize the trip details," you can say, let's sort out the details for the trip this weekend. It feels more collaborative and conversational. Moving on, check out adds a sense of excitement when exploring new places or activities. Instead of saying, let's visit that cafe, you can say, let's check out that new cafe downtown. It instantly makes your suggestion more engaging. Another great one is come along, which is perfect for inviting someone to join. Instead of saying, do you want to join us? You can say, we're heading to the park. Do you want to come along? It's warm, inclusive, and adds a friendly touch to your invitation. Next, there's turn up, ideal for flexible or last-minute plans. Rather than saying, arrive when you're free, you can say, you can turn up whenever you're free. It sounds more casual and relaxed, perfect for informal settings. Following that is plan ahead, a thoughtful way to prepare in advance. For example, instead of saying, we should book tickets early, you can say, we should plan ahead if we're booking tickets for the concert. It's practical and conversational. Then, we have get together, which is your go-to for suggesting group gatherings. Instead of saying, let's have dinner as a group, you can say, we should all get together for dinner sometime soon. It makes the plan sound more relaxed and inviting. Up next is look forward to, a wonderful phrase to express excitement. Instead of saying, I'm excited about our dinner, you can say, I'm looking forward to our dinner on Friday. It feels warmer and more genuine. Lastly, we have drop off, which is perfect for arranging quick exchanges. Instead of saying, I'll deliver the tickets to your place, you can say, I'll drop off the tickets at your place before the event. It's simple, clear, and conversational. So, these aren't just words, they're tools that can make your English sound alive and authentic. Start trying them out in your conversations, and you'll notice the difference right away. Now, let me tell you another situation that completely transformed the way I approached my job. When I first started working, I quickly realized that there were certain phrases everyone was using to sound professional and on top of things. I mean, I was used to speaking casually with friends, but this was a whole different ballgame. If I wanted to keep up, I knew I needed to step up my language game. So, I started focusing on learning phrasal verbs specifically for work. It wasn't just about sounding smart, it was about understanding the right way to communicate within the work environment. I'm talking about those phrases you hear in meetings, in emails, and even in casual conversations that make you sound like you've been in the industry for years. And my test was on the day of one of my first big meetings. I was supposed to explain the progress on a project I was handling. Now, while talking about the project, instead of just saying, we've been working on the project, I tried using the phrasal verb, working through, we've been working through the project's challenges. Now, let me first explain the difference between working on and working through. When I say working on, it simply means I am doing something, like completing tasks. But when I say working through, it means that there are challenges or problems in the project, and I am actively trying to solve them. So, by saying, working through the challenges, it sounds like we are overcoming problems and making real progress, rather than just doing the regular tasks. Using this phrasal verb made me sound more engaged and active in solving problems, rather than just saying we're working on something, which could sound more passive. Then, My manager asked me about the current status of the project and the timeline for completion. Normally, I might have just said, I'm almost done with the project, but this time I used, wrapping up. I'm currently wrapping up the final details. Instead of saying, finishing, or completing, wrapping up sounds a lot more professional and casual, making it clear that I'm almost at the end but not quite there yet. It felt like a smoother way to convey I was in the final stages. After the meeting, when I was talking to a colleague about the next steps, I used the phrasal verb, follow up. I need to follow up on a couple of things after this meeting. Follow up means to check on something again to make sure it's being done or to get more information. By using follow up, I made it clear that I wasn't just going to let things slide, I was taking responsibility to make sure everything got done properly. It made me sound more organized and committed to seeing things through. And by the end of the day, I was happy with how the meeting went. But wait a second, do you know there are also phrasal verbs we can use for expressing emotions? When we talk about emotions like happiness or sadness, we don't always have to just say, I'm happy, or, I'm sad. There are phrasal verbs we can use to express emotions more naturally. For example, instead of just saying, I'm happy, I could say, I've cheered up, or, I'm blown away. These little changes can make what you're saying feel more expressive and real. Let me share a bit about how I started using these phrasal verbs. At first, I was a bit shy about talking about how I felt in English. It felt like a challenge to express myself, and I always ended up using the most basic phrases. But once I started learning phrasal verbs related to emotions, things got much easier. Take, for example, when I was talking to a friend about my plans for the weekend. I could have simply said, I'm excited for the weekend. But instead, I used the phrasal verb, look forward to, and said, I'm really looking forward to the weekend. When I used look forward to, it made my excitement feel more genuine and natural. It wasn't just about feeling excited, it showed that I was anticipating something with joy. Then, there was this one day when I was feeling a little low. It had been a long, exhausting week, and I could feel myself dragging. Instead of saying, I feel sad, I decided to use the phrasal verb, feel down. I told my colleague, I'm feeling down today. It made me sound like I was experiencing a more subtle kind of sadness, not just a flat-out bad mood. And, honestly, saying, feel down, helped me express my feelings without feeling overly dramatic. Another time, I remember talking to a friend who had just come back from a vacation. She had been looking a bit off before the trip, but after her break, she seemed so much brighter. Instead of saying, she feels better now, I said, she's really cheered up after her vacation. Using cheer up made it sound like her mood had genuinely improved in a natural, relatable way. It wasn't just about feeling better, it was about her mood lifting in a positive and clear way. What I found was that using these phrasal verbs allowed me to talk about emotions in a more natural and authentic way. Instead of relying on simple adjectives like happy or sad, I could now express myself with a bit more nuance and personality. And when I started using these phrasal verbs in conversations, I noticed that people started connecting with me more easily. It was like they could understand exactly what I was feeling because I was expressing it in a more specific way. For example, The next time I was talking to a colleague who had just been through a tough project, I didn't just say, "You must be frustrated." Instead, I asked, "How are you holding up?" This made the conversation feel more open and considerate. It showed I wasn't just making a guess about how they felt, I was genuinely interested in their well-being. Using phrasal verbs like these not only helped me sound more fluent and natural, but it also made me feel more confident in expressing myself. It felt like I was learning a new way to connect with people, and every time I used a new phrase, it made me feel like I was improving. Whether I was talking about excitement, frustration, or just the ups and downs of everyday life, I knew that phrasal verbs were there to help me express myself clearly and effectively. So, phrasal verbs are not just a way to sound more fluent, they also help you express yourself more naturally and connect better with others. Whether you're talking about work, emotions, or everyday situations, they make your language richer and more engaging. And the best part is, there are so many more phrasal verbs waiting for you. So go ahead, learn them, use them, and watch your English improve. That's all for today. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips.